And you have to constantly stay working to stay right, because he's going to be right there just the minute you think it's right. Put people in your path that's going to trip you up. It's going to do it every time. If you keep going back.
Yeah, you have to change your...
You have to completely. And that's kind of what, when he was talking last week when he was here, and he was talking about helping these people and so on and so forth. And that's when I told him, you know, you were in here when I told him, you can't lower to their standards. You can help them, but you have to stay here, because if not, you're going to get right back into your same cycle.
Absolutely.
And
you cannot go back to what didn't work.
Right. So anyway.
My niece does. She always goes back to the same watering hole.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
We will see. We will see. We will see. In the meantime, I'm going to continue to be I've known all this. Like, I've known this could possibly happen. Yeah. He hasn't lied to me. He's been completely open with me. So I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing. I'm going to continue to love him. I'm going to continue to support him. I'm going to continue to be his partner. I'm going to continue to help him through. And we're going to work this thing out, because I believe it can be worked out.
That's what you have to do.
And I believe that he's worth the time, the effort.
What you probably need now is just that inner discernment to know what to do, what to say this, when to do that, right. All that type of thing.
Right.
Because you're more stable in your circumstance, and you're the one that has to be like the structure. Right?
Responsible person, Miss Kay. You can always count on Kay to be responsible.
There you go.
Yeah. But that's how God created me, as a responsible person. So, that's the way it goes. I don't know. This is the voice of Cincinnati. Okay, this is great. Hello, welcome to today's episode of Okay, Let's Be Frank. I'm Kay, and this is Frank. No, Frank's not here. So I have received a phone call from Frank, and he's given me some permission to reveal what's going on in his life. But he wanted me to start it off by saying he was reading last night a Daily Bread scripture. And in that Daily Bread scripture, it said that we tend to get on Facebook and pretend that everything is okay. We put on our good face, we walk out into the world, and we do the things that we do, and we continue to pretend like everything is fine, when in all actuality, everything is not always fine. Everything is not always the way we like to think it is. So with that, we have to remember that in situations that we can't control, we have to keep grace in mind always. So Frank is in jail. And the reason Frank is in jail is due to things that happen or that he has done in his past, things that he's not proud of, and things that he just should have taken care of, but he didn't. So what do we have to do? We have to remember to be graceful, because this is not what is meant to be. It's not what anybody wants. And here we were just 2 weeks ago, or last week, and week before, talking about prison and jail and information and doing things that necessarily shouldn't be done. So let me tell you the story of what happened, and why I personally have to continue to have grace for Frank. Frank has been borrowing my vehicle. one of my vehicles. And it had a flat tire. And he drove that vehicle to the O'Reilly's with a flat tire. And because they had a locking mechanism on the tire, one of those anti-theft lug nuts, and we didn't have the tool to get that off. So Frank took it to O'Reilly's to see if they had a tool to get it off. The guy at O'Reilly's said, yeah, we can take this off. We can get it off. It's okay. So Frank was like, okay. Anyway, the guy takes, I don't know, a chisel and a hammer or something. I don't know, because I wasn't there, didn't get the call, to try to get this thing off. And he totaled it, destroyed it. I mean, you can't. The only way to get this off now is to get a cutting torch and cut the tire off. So the guy finally said, I can't do it. There's a tire shop right there. Just take it to the tire shop. So Frank drives to the tire shop to see if they can get it off. Well, when he was driving it to the tire shop, because the tire was ruined, he's driving on the rim, the tire's ruined, he can't get it off. He goes to the tire shop. There happens to be an officer right there and catches him driving, and that's what got him pulled over. Unbeknownst to him, he had some issues that were from his past that wasn't taken care of, and so they arrested him, and now he's in jail. Now, one of them he did know was there, so, but he's been trying to work that out. He's not trying to work it out. He's been trying to take care of it because of who he is and what he's doing. He really believes in changing his life. Where my grace comes in is I wanted to scream and yell and holler and have all kinds of bad words to say, because when I seen that, I was like, what am I going to do? The car got impounded. I didn't have the money to get the vehicle out of impound. His roommate, thankfully, had grace for both of us, and he's the one that spent the money to get the vehicle out of impound, and it was quite a bit of money. It wasn't just pocket change. He spent that money to get the vehicle out of impound. It got taken to the apartment complex where they said we have 24 hours to get it off the property because it's not registered to that apartment complex. So now what do? We're sitting here with the vehicle and the tire that you can't do anything with, and I have no one to come and cut the thing off. I'm waiting now for my pastor. He's got a hold of somebody that will potentially come and help me get this off. But I have 7 days to get it off of that property, thanks to them begging for me to give me some time to get it off the property. Frank will probably be not with us for a little bit. So we have to have grace for Frank when he gets home, because the things of his past are just that. They're of his past. They're things that he realizes he should have taken care of, and he didn't. So now he's having to take care of it. I talked to him this morning and I said, what are you learning, Frank? He's like, I just thought of that myself. What is it that I need to be learning? Because there's apparently something that I need to be learning, or I wouldn't be here. So God's grace. You know, God's grace is so good to us, Jeff, because we do stupid things in our life, and he says, it's okay, I love you anyway, and just do better next time. So when you internalize God's grace for what he does for you, you have to remember to give that away. And that's just what I'm saying, is to please remember that when Frank comes home, to remember to give grace back to him.
I think in the past I've mentioned the scripture that says, what is the greatest commandment? And that was is to love the Lord thy God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and your neighbor as yourself. Now, the key word there is as, because that means you don't love them more than yourself, otherwise you get run over by it, and you don't love them less than yourself either. So the bottom line, though, is there that we all fall short of the glory of God in our life in one way or another, or maybe many ways and another. And we all have to kind of, if we could look through the type of glasses that would see another person and their flaw, but when we did that, we saw our own flaw.
Oh, yeah.
We might take a different perspective as to how to deal with another person.
I think in some situations we do that, though. I think really but not in a good way. Because what I'm saying is we see the problems in other people, and we're willing and fast and able to point out and say, oh, you did this, or you did that, or you've done this, or you're acting like this, when it's always something internal that we feel bad about what we're doing, that we've done. That's why it gets under our skin so bad, because it is a reflection of who we are. A reminder, right. Oh, so then what? If you don't keep that thought in mind, and if you don't keep it going, if you don't pay attention to always be graceful and love somebody else, you just are in agony and pain and anger all the time.
Someone once said the three most important things to think of in life are, in relation to other people, is to be kind, and be kind. Yeah. Because, it could be you one day that is in the same predicament. And how do you relate to that? How would you like them to relate to you?
Right.
If you were in that same situation,
Right.
I know that sounds really out there because most people don't do it that way. But that's really, I think, the way Jesus would want us to do it.
That's what I was going to say. We're not supposed to do it the way other people do it. We're supposed to do it the way Jesus done for us, and the way he exampled and modeled for us to do. And he was the ultimate thing that had grace ever. He took on all of our stupid stuff, and look where he went. What happened? Right. Absolutely. It's so amazing. I think of the things that I've done in my past, and if it's only by his grace that I'm even sitting here on this radio today, because there's no way. But I've accepted him into my life. I've accepted him into my heart. I am really, in a passionate way, trying to walk the way he wants me to walk and do the things that he wants me to do. And if it weren't for that, I don't know where I would be or what I would be going through. And it's his grace is so merciful.
Well, most people go back to the same cycle.
Right.
If they don't see a different avenue to go on, they will go back to the same place that they're familiar with, even though it's the very thing that is very damaging and can hurt a person all over again.
Absolutely.
They need to be able, and maybe that's it. Maybe that's what other people should do when they come across situations, and that is to guide them to the avenue that will take them to grace and peace and a new life.
Right.
Rather than abandon them or to denigrate them.
Right. You can't abandon them. You can't turn them down. You have to continue to be graceful and stay with them and say, this is what you, and be open and honest with what you think and how you feel, but not in a negative, ugly way. Look, dude, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. Do what you're supposed to be doing, and I've got your back. I've told him from day one. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you've done in your past. Of course, he's told me everything. I don't care what it is, Frank. I am your friend, and I am your partner, and I have got your back, period. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I have his back. So And vice versa with me. He knows my past. He knows my issues. He knows what's going on. And he's told me the exact same thing. It's all good. I've got your back. So sometimes we want to be mad. Like my son has autism, and so he has no other, his first immediate reaction is anger. But that's because that's how he just internalizes everything. So we pulled up to see that Durango, and he's seen that tire, and boy, he was like, Frank, I can't believe he did that. I just want to knock the crap out of him. And I'm like, but Dalton, what good is that going to do? That's not going to do any good. Is that going to fix that tire? Nope. Is that going to get Frank out of jail? Nope. Is that going to solve the problem? No. Is it going to put money back in our pocket? No. Well, then what do we have to do? We have to look for a solution on how we take care of this tire. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to think about. That's what our focus is. And then if we can't do it, we ask God to help us, lead us, show us who can, and not worry about it, you know? So I have not been back over there to even see if the Durango is still sitting there since Monday. I'm going after I leave today. Cross our fingers, it's not sitting in the impound. But what if it is? Then what? I have to deal with that. So,
you know, I wrote I guess it's a piece of prose several years ago in regard to life's journey and how you relate to other people on the journey, if you would like to play it.
Sure.
Okay. So this is called The Walk.
The Walk.
I wrote it back in about 2007, I think it was.
Okay.
So let's listen to The Walk. I think it'll give you a perspective of how you live life, and how you relate to other people along the journey.
Yeah, okay.
Again, I'll walk again. It seems like we've been walking on this road for quite a while now. There are many of us traveling this journey. There are many to my left, many to my right. I look forward and see there's a large number who are in front of me. And I look over my right shoulder and see a large group behind me too. People don't talk much about it, but we keep walking just the same. It's important for some reason that we finish our walk. Sometimes the road is made of gravel as we trudge along, and sometimes it's just a dirt road, and it's hard to keep our footing. But we keep walking just the same. We have been walking a long time now, and sometimes we wonder if the trip is worth the effort, but we keep walking just the same. Maybe we will find a clue along the way as to why we walk. Sometimes the days are sunny and warm, and on some days the storm clouds roll in and frighten us with flashes of lightning, crashes of thunder, and rains blind our path, but we keep walking just the same. Sometimes I wonder why we keep walking, but for some reason I know we must. Sometimes we even run and make up a great distance, and sometimes we must crawl along slowly, but we keep moving forward just the same. I must admit there is beauty along the road, with forests of green, beautiful crystal blue lakes, winding rivers, and majestic mountains that we have climbed together. The journey has taken us through icy cold days in the winter with falling snow, warm spring days with the sun on our faces as we walk through meadows of wildflowers and tall grasses. Although the summer's hot rain showers cooled us, as did the summer breezes, we took time to enjoy the view. And speaking of views, the autumns have been spectacular, with scenes of the changing of leaves that can take your breath away. Whoops, a friend of mine slipped in front of me and fell. I need to help him up. After all, he helped me up last week. We are in this together. Times seem to be getting harder lately. We are walking uphill now. Boy, this hill is steep. My feet hurt and my knees hurt from the journey, and I get tired easily. But in the midst of it, I know it has to be worth it. It seems like we are just about at the top of the hill now, and I wonder what we will find on the other side. Can't give up now. We are almost to the top. Wait a minute. I hear the people in front of me cheering. What is it over that hilltop that has stirred such excitement? The people to my left and right are starting to run toward the hilltop. Me too. We are almost there. Made it. Amazing. That city that stands in front of me, it is gleaming like a light like I have never known. The streets are made of gold, the gatepost of precious gemstones. The whole place sparkles. There is a river running through it that looks like glittering diamonds. There are people I haven't seen in years here. How beautiful it is. Angels going to and fro. The long journey filled with trouble and hardships has most certainly been worth it. I see him now. All I can say is holy, holy, holy. It's Jesus, the lover of my soul, the one who died for me that I might live to see this day and live in this place. Thank you, Jesus, for what you did for me. My journey is now complete. I have run the race, and I am home.
That was beautiful, Jeff.
Well, that's the goal,
Right.
okay?
Absolutely.
And that's the road that everyone travels on.
Right.
And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good, but we all know that he is with us no matter where we're at on that road.
True.
So that just came to mind. That's why I wanted to play that, particularly the part where it says, whoops,
Right.
my friend fell.
Whoops.
I have to help him up because he helped me up last week.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Romans 5:20 says, the law was brought in so that trespass may increase, but where sin increases, grace increased all the more. So we always have to remember that none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. And we all do stupid things that we regret, things that we wish we hadn't done. And we just hope and pray that people will continue to have grace for us. And I mean, I know that there are situations like, well, with my sister, she got in trouble while she's been in jail. And I haven't been able to talk to her. And she wrote me a letter and she's like, please don't be mad at me. Please don't, whatever. And I'm like, I'm not mad at you. If anything, I'm heartbroken for you because you're not able to control your temper. You know, I'm not mad at you for it. I want you to get help. I want you to get what it takes to take care of that instead of flying off the handle. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. I don't like to argue. I don't like to fight. I don't like to be mad. And so I get that it's from deep emotional hurt, though, because I've been deeply emotionally hurt. And so you choose to do one of two things. You're angry all the time and take it out on everything and everybody, or you can internalize it, as I did, and take it all out on yourself, put a great big nice face on and act like everything is hunky-dory when it's not inside, and then it tears you up from there, which is, you know, why the things that I have gone through, the things that I have done, the things that were done to me, and then I have done to myself because of things that were done to me. I continue to have grace, not just for them, but for myself, to quit beating myself up, because Jesus says you're worth everything. You're worth me dying for. His ultimate grace was ultimate. It was the ultimate thing.
When a person has that kind of anger because of various reasons, you can externalize it in the form of fighting or negative things. You can internalize it as depression.
Right.
Or you can send it up.
Right.
And let it go. Let the anger go and give it to God.
Right.
And then he can come in and heal. Well, I'm pretty well convinced that I don't think anybody can heal anybody. Only God can heal those kinds of
absolutely.
things.
Well, because I tell you, I did, like I said, I internalized it, and I had depression. I clinically major depression disorder for 15 years. Had to take medicine. Had to, if I didn't, I was just off the hook. Just my brain was not. But right around the time my father died, and I don't know, death and key people in my life, that brings a lot of clarity to me, because then I have to really start searching and figure out what's going on, why I feel the way I feel, and all this. So when my dad died, all of that stuff started once again going, okay, you've got to figure this out, and you've got to do this, and you can't just continue to hold all this stuff in. You have to let it go. And I started crying out and crying out and crying out. And as I was crying out, he was taking it all away. I mean, he really was. He was letting me go through the situation and heal in each individual part, and know that I don't have to carry that baggage anymore. And when he took the depression away from me, I literally felt it come out of my body. I mean, I just felt it. It was like, what? It's gone, you know? And at the moment, I felt the thing, but I was like, what is that? But when, like, a couple of days later, I'm like, I haven't been feeling, no, it's like not there. Oh, thank you. It's not there. And joy is back in my life. Even in the bad moments, joy is back inside my body. I feel it. I'm a more happy person internally.
And where did that come from?
Oh, it comes from Jesus. Absolutely. Absolutely. But, and this goes back to my show on Monday with surrender. If I had not surrendered all, then I wouldn't have had that joy. I wouldn't have had that peace. And I know that because I've been begging him for it for 7 years, you know. And he's like, I'll be glad to take it if you just give it, but you're not giving it. So I'm not taking it. Right. I'll be giving you joy back because I have plenty of grace for you. You just have to give me your junk. And I'm like, oh, I don't know that I want to give you my junk.
He already knows.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing, I guess, is, and well, even when we were talking about the show on his love, I'll give you my pinky, you know, but you can't have nothing else. No. When I let him in, when I chose to let him come in completely, life has been nothing but change, complete change. Dramatic changes have happened. And there are days that I still want to sit and wallow in some things that have not yet come to pass, that should come to pass. And then I think about, as we were saying a while ago, going back to old ways and reverting back. Well, should I have really have done this, or should I? And then I think, yes, you should have done that. Yes, continue to give it to him every single day. Give it to God every day. Every single day. Choose to give it to God every day.
People forget too that this is a process. You don't fix everything in 5 minutes.
Right.
A lot of these things, and he's only going to give you what burden you can bear at the time. So he may pick one thing over here and work on that for a while. Right. And then later, several months later, something else will crop up into your mind. Oh, what about this? You know.
Well, right, exactly. And I think, well, as I asked Frank, what are you learning in this situation while you're there? Frank is not the only one learning something in this situation. Kay is learning something in this situation. Dion, the roommate, is learning something in this situation. You know, we all have something that we have to work on together and learn out of this situation. So what do? We continue to give it to God. We continue to pray. We continue to hold our head up and walk forward, and then just do what we do.
And I think the other thing that a person can do is primarily, actually, is seek God. What is he trying to tell you? What is he asking you to do?
Right.
You know, and then continue to be obedient to do that.
Right.
Because he's going to take you along the right road.
Right.
Okay?
Oh, absolutely.
He won't lead you in the wrong direction. So when God is talking to you about a certain circumstance, we listen, we process it, and then we do it.
Understanding my personal character that he sees in me, or that he created me. That's my mission right now. That is my true ultimate mission right now, is trying to understand my character, my goal, not my goal, his goal for me, because I don't have a goal. And that's probably for the best right now, because I'm totally walking the way what you tell me to do every day. Every day. If it weren't this morning, I woke up and I was like, oh, here I go. I have to go get on the radio. I have to figure out what I'm going to talk about. Am I going to play with where Frank's at? Am I not going to? What are we going to do? Why don't I just call in? No, no. Get up, face the day, do what you're supposed to do, and take God with you when you do it.
Because he has a plan beyond what is even going on.
Right.
Okay? He has an overall plan. The very subject matter of this program may be affecting someone that's listening.
Right.
In similar ways. And maybe something that we say might give somebody else, some perspective.
I hope.
So, I
hope that. When I say I hope, I mean just the program. Okay, let's be frank. And the fact that we do come in here and share our junk with other people, and how we want to think we're old Christians, that we've been there for a while, and maybe in an aspect we have, but Frank and I are both in a very new place as far as listening to what God is telling us and surrendering what we need to surrender and actually doing what he's calling us to do. We're both in a very new place with this. Mm-hmm. So to share that with other people, I really hope that it is effective and that it helps, because
I
know that
everybody's got similar things.
Right. And I wish that I had somebody that was frank with me in times of needing frankness. Don't sugarcoat it, and don't be mad about it. Let's be honest. Let's be graceful. Let's be merciful. Let's try to help up the fellow man. We're not even going to say the fellow Christian, my brother and sister in humanity, period. We have to be good and nice and loving to them. And I've always believed that. I've always believed that. I remember back when I was probably 16 or 17 years old, maybe older than that, maybe 21-ish. My sister's boyfriend overdosed. And I was in the car and I was driving to get him to the hospital, really, and so I got him there and got him to the hospital. And it was probably not a year after that, though, I got bitter. I just went bitter. And I guess things due to my circumstances at the time, and my mom said, where did my daughter go? My daughter used to think she could help the world. My daughter would have helped anybody. And I'm like, but Mom, they don't care. They don't want it. They don't want my help. They don't care. They just spit on me. They just stab me in the back. They just kick me. And I'm tired of that. I'm tired of being hurt. So I internalized or reverted all of that stuff, and I carried it inside of me. And I was still, in essence, a helpful kind of person, but it made me more angry because I wasn't giving the love out that I had in my body.
You were mad at yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then I would help somebody and they wouldn't do anything and I would get mad. It wouldn't help. I thought it was helping, but it didn't continue. That's when I realized it's not my job to make them stay healthy. If that's the way to explain it. It's my job to give them a helping hand. It's my job to encourage them. It's my job to stay with them and to be with them and to do everything until God says, okay, you know, it's okay to move on, or he heals them, or they turn to him and he takes care of it. I mean, you know, he's the healer. I'm not the healer. I'm just the helping hand, is all.
Well, we're all responsible for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not responsible for somebody else's actions or thoughts or deeds or anything.
Right,
I can help them, maybe I can say something that will help, but
right,
ultimately it's everybody's own thing.
right. Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think sometimes we can take on responsibility that
That's
doesn't
not
belong
ours
to us.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that really most of the time doesn't really help the other person.
Well, right. So
You know?
you have to know that fine line and that double-edged sword between enabling that person to continue to do what they are not supposed to be doing and how much of it is really helping that person. So I have said, and there's not anybody except for my son that I can't walk away from. There's nobody in this world that I cannot walk away from. Part of me thinks that is a terrible, terrible thing. Really, it does, because if you can just walk away, what does that mean? The other part of me says, no, it's okay, because maybe you're better used somewhere else instead of continuing to enable them, or instead of continuing to let them use you as a carpet, or any of those things. When it comes detrimental to yourself and to them, it is time to go. And so I have not had...
Love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right. That's true.
You know, you don't want to overdo either way. You need that middle balance where you can, if you can help someone, that's great, but you can't do it for them.
Right.
They have to do it for
They
themselves.
have to do it for themselves. And you have to, when it becomes toxic, and there's many of times in my life, even in family, it has become toxic. It's bad for me, it's bad for them. We can't talk, we can't text, we can't be around each other, because it's just going to end up in a toxic situation. What do? You have to go on. You have to move on. Go past it. And if they don't want to fix it, you can't fix it. You can't fix the whole situation. You can't fix the whole relationship yourself. And that's something that I've learned. It takes both of you to fix the relationship.
Remember, like in the walk, all these people were walking separately.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there were times when the one fell that I went to pick him up because he picked me up last week.
Right.
But with all those people, thousands of people in that particular case, were walking separately
Right.
toward the goal.
The goal. Right.
Okay, which is heaven, ultimately.
Right.
But down here, as we do the walk, we love our neighbor as thyself, so we help each other out, but we don't do it for them.
Right.
We do it for ourselves to do our walk and make sure it's right.
Right.
If I can do that, at the very least, I can be a good example to somebody.
Right.
Okay? At the very least.
At the very least.
If I do it right.
Right.
So that's my part. I have to do mine right first, and then help others if I can.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. So I guess it's not a bad thing for me to say I can walk away from anybody.
It depends
In
on the
situations,
circumstance.
in the situation, depends on what it is and what's going on. Grace, I was trying to figure out how many scriptures in the Bible today that I could say there are such amount of scriptures in the Bible that pertain to grace. I stopped counting when I got to 400. It's like there are over 400 scriptures in the Bible that either name grace or pertain to grace,
Mm-hmm.
period. So I would probably say the whole Bible, the whole book, probably pertains to grace in one aspect or another.
Well, Jesus' redemption of us, which is grace,
Mm-hmm.
is the whole point
Right.
of the Bible, that he came and died because our human nature had sinned and it had to be redeemed. And he was the only one who was sinless, and he came and he died for us and then raised from the dead, which is the difference between every other religion. He's the
Right.
only founder of the religion that actually raised from the dead, that we might be able to be raised to
Right.
in righteousness, not self-righteousness, but his righteousness.
Right.
And when we look at that and that grace, that the Son of God actually looked down and looked at all of his creatures and said, it's worth it to me
Right.
that they come home.
Right.
It's worth it to me. Okay, and he did it. He did what was necessary to make up the difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's so amazing. It is such an amazing feeling when you actually take that and you internalize it the way he means for you to take it and internalize it, because that's what he's about. He's about love, and he's about grace, and he's about redemption, and all of those great words, mercy, all of them. That's who he is. And to have him in you supposed to give you his character. So with the character that they gave you and you take on his character together, it's going to be a beautiful thing, but you have to accept it. He's not going to make you do it.
No.
He's not going to force it on you. Free will.
That's our free will. Yeah.
Right. Free will. And even that is grace in itself, that he gave us free will. That's grace in itself. He could have made us all to do exactly what he wanted us to do, period, from the beginning. He could have created us with one mind and one mind only, that this is all we're going to do, period. He could have created it that way, but he didn't. He didn't create it that way. He created us all different. He gave us all our free will. He gave us all our characteristics to be our personal, individual selves that we are, so that way we can come to him, because he's going to have grace for us.
Well, he not only saved us from hell, but he saved us for something.
Right.
He saved us for a purpose and a destiny in our life, that we will accomplish things that he's wanting us to do. A lot of times people get saved and they go, oh, is that it? Is it over? No. You're saved for a purpose.
Right.
And that purpose gives you that sense inside of you of your worth and value, the way God sees you.
Right.
And what we try to do as best we can in the process is to work on the things that are not right, and try to improve our life that way through him. And he will show us those things and we'll work through those things. And then he's molding and making us into what he wants us to be down the road.
I think so he can see us as who we are, but he can also, maybe he just don't see us as we are. He sees us as our ultimate
Right.
ending.
He does.
That's what he sees,
Yeah.
is what we look like in our ultimate ending.
Mm-hmm.
So then as we take him in and we go and we really internalize what he's telling us, then that's when we start seeing the reflection of his ultimate ending through us, when we look at it and we pay attention.
That's what he's trying to build us into.
Yeah.
You
That amazingly beautiful.
I mean, look at anyone. You could look at their life and say, after they've been saved and they're walking this journey, they look at their life now and they compare it to what it was 3 months ago or 6 months ago. You should be seeing some improvement as we go along the way.
Right.
Okay. If you're not, then you're probably
Not
missing
doing,
something.
yeah.
Okay. But if you are, you can look back, and that can be a real encouragement to people. You say, well, I may not be what I'm supposed to be, but I ain't what I used to be.
Ain't what I used to be, right? Because
Okay.
I'm not there yet, but I'm better than I was yesterday.
Right.
I'm a better person today, a better Kay today than I was yesterday.
And that's what we should strive to be.
Right.
You know? But again, I think we are much more likely to be successful at that when we are closer to God.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If we veer off course, if we go in different directions away from God, you're going to hear that faint voice, but it's got, what do you say? You
Right.
know?
Right.
But if we're close to Him, you can sense within your spirit.
Right.
He can say, you wake up one morning, hey, Kay, I want you to go do this.
Right. Right.
Okay. It's just being obedient. It's
Right.
just doing what He says that day.
Right. I laid there this morning just groaning. Really, I was like, oh, the weather is crap. Oh, I'm dreading this. My kid, I don't want to even take him to school. Like, I really just didn't even want to get out of the house, And I was awake. It was really crazy because I was awake at 5. I was awake at 6. And here it is rolling around 6:45, 7 o'clock. And I'm still laying in the bed groaning, going, please just tell me it's okay to stay here. Well, he's like, no.
To the radio.
Exactly. Get up, take that kid to school, and you go to work because you have a job to do. You can't lay here and groan. That's not the way life is supposed to be. Get up and go do it. Yes.
But we all feel
fine.
that.
I mean, right. We do all feel that.
At times, we don't want to do something or whatever. And that's and again, that comes in and says, uh-oh, that's something I better work on.
Right, right.
Well,
for me, it was like, why do you not want to get up and do this? That was my immediate, after I was just complaining about it. Why do you not want to? The realization is once again, here I have to come into the station and I be on the radio and there's no Frank, and Frank carries a lot of things for the show. Like he's the one that watches the news. He's the one that's into the situation. So most of the time, he's the one that can bring the topic around. I always have an opinion, but I don't stay with like watching the news. I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff because to me, the book says it has to happen. So it has to happen. I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
We have to go through this.
Yeah, this is
So why are you letting the world worry and bring you and stress you out? No, you're not supposed to let it worry and bother you and stress you out. You're supposed to give it to God. Well, if you don't put it in front of you to worry and stress you out, then you don't worry and stress about it, right?
I think
so.
We all get 24 hours a day.
Right.
Now we can do anything we want with that. You sleep 8 hours, maybe. You work 8 hours, maybe. So you got another 8 hours here.
Right.
What do you do with it?
Right.
Okay. Are you on Facebook 5 hours of that time, or are you watching TV at 5 hours, or are you praying, or are you reading the Bible, or are you just thinking about God things, or are you out doing everything else?
Right.
We all have the same amount of time. What are we doing with the time? Okay? Because it's important.
Right.
Because that takes you to where you're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But if I'm listening to, the news and how bad everything is, that's going to put you in a bad mood.
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
Depress your spirit.
Right. So
they don't ever do anything positive on that stuff.
No, it's all bad. But what you do is you think on pure things. You think on good things. You put yourself in a place where you will feel good about it.
Right.
Okay. Don't think of bad things about people. Think good things about people.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And I think this is all, that 8 hour period of the day probably is what God talks to you most about.
Right.
Okay.
What are you doing in that time frame?
Right. And when we follow what He's telling us, we're going to be always in a better place.
Right.
Always.
Happy and able to really love your neighbor as yourself.
And it doesn't necessarily take away negative experiences. They
Ah.
are real.
They are.
However, he may give you a nugget of information that can get you through it or around it or whatever. So
Well,
you don't
I
have
mean,
to deal with it.
all of it, yeah. He can do all of that, but it also teaches you a lesson, which is another positive, great thing in the negative situation when you can handle it positively instead of negatively. Well, that just shows you that, oh, I don't have to blow my stack and be crazy and whatever. It's just a situation. It's just a thing. It don't ruin your day. It don't ruin your life. It don't ruin your whatever. It may ruin your moment if you let it ruin your moment.
A lot of times people think that they're going through whatever that is alone,
Right.
but you're not.
You're not.
He's with you. Okay?
Always.
So he can help you through it. So that should be able to help the person be able to face whatever the things are and come out with a better outcome.
Right.
You know?
So they truly, it's like talking to him, praying, talking to him, doing the things that you're doing. Well, you can't hear him back. You can if you are really connected to what you're supposed to be doing. If you're really seeking him, if you're really paying attention. And if you can't feel it inside, then get that book, because that book tells you. That book tells you what he's thinking, what he's saying, and how he feels, and that is the guide.
Basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Right.
Provide.
Mm-hmm. Yes. It's just an amazing thing. It's sad to know that Frank is going to be away for a little bit. And I don't know what that little bit means. I know ultimately right now it means at least until next Tuesday. But I can't let it dictate my life either. I can't let it dictate it in a negative fashion. I have to continue to be a good friend to him and do what he says when he calls me and asks me to do these things. Continue to try to work things out and get it going and just be positive that God has got something great working out of this temporarily bad situation.
No, Romans 8:28 says all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose.
Right.
And love God.
Right.
Okay. All things work
right.
together for good.
Right.
So even that means the bad things too.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
Somehow or other, God will turn it around for good.
Oh, right.
He says
absolutely.
he will.
Yeah. That scripture, that's one of the scriptures. He gave me that scripture that when I can remember elementary school age Sunday school. That one has stayed with me forever and ever and ever and ever. So, I believe that he was telling me then, because I was going through it then. And I went through it for a long time, just bad stuff. But he was trying to tell me then, because he gave it to me and I held it, that it's going to be okay. You're going through this, and I know and I see and I'm watching it. But it's going to be okay, because it's going to turn around for the good at some point. Of course, he didn't tell me that it was going to be 44 years later. No.
all tests end up being a testimony if you process it through God.
Right.
It's a testimony to say, oh, yeah, I went through that same kind of thing too. And this is how God dealt with me and how we got through it.
Right.
Sometimes people, they go through things and it's part of the process of getting them to where they need to go.
Right. Right. And so in the circumstances and in those issues, then we're able to help others because we've been there. That's where you can help somebody else out. They're in this situation or this similar circumstance. What do? Well, you've been there, so now you know what to do to help somebody else out, and stand up for what's right, and stand up for the way you felt you wanted things done. You know, I was talking to my aunt yesterday, and I was like, I don't understand certain situations with parents with children who claim that they've been molested by somebody, because I was molested. I was molested from a very young age. And to me, especially to me, if there's a kid that says they've been molested, or they even act like there's something going on, then don't doubt that child. Check into it, period. It's okay if it turns out to be no, they didn't do it, that it didn't happen. Okay, so what? Better to accuse somebody that didn't do it than to not accuse somebody that did and let them continue to do it for over and over and over and over and over. Just don't wash your hands of it. Pay attention. It's just one of those things. Like, really, pay attention.
You know what?
And stand up for those kids, because they can't stand up for themselves.
Now, when I think of the one song that Grace is most well known for, of course, it's Amazing Grace.
Absolutely.
I have a version of that we can play on our way out, but we have to thank your sponsors.
Yes, I would like to thank Jesse down at Flip Daddy's for him and his sponsorship for us, and New Hope Christian Center for continuing to be graceful to Frank and I, and the New Reality Center, as they will continue to be graceful to Frank and I, and just my church and my pastor, who is working really hard to help me deal with this Durango situation. So the Refinery Church of the Nazarene in Maysville, Kentucky. I thank everybody for tuning in and for listening to our show. And we're going to play Amazing Grace, and we're just going to enjoy in God's goodness.
Have a good week.
Have a good week. We'll see you back on Monday.
This is the Celtic women's version.
You know what? I played just the instrumental bagpipes at my mom's funeral.
Are you on Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. and grace will lead us home. Blind, but now I
Yeah! Okay, let's be great. Okay, this is Frank. 1320 AM WCBG proudly brings to you the Okay, Let's Be Frank show. We're going to dive into the Word, talk to guests, and get closer to God on 1320 AM WCBG.
That's Mondays at 11 a.m. and Wednesdays at 12 p.m. on WCBG 1320 a.m. The Voice.
1320 AM.
Can't hardly listen to Amazing Grace without crying out of humbleness and thanksgiving.
But that